Carl Weber's The Family Business, Season 3, Episode number 10, titled Bye Bye Harris. Bye Bye Harris. Catch a fire, Trigger. Is there anyone else that hates Harris more than I do? I cannot stand Biscuit. We all know this is Biscuit right from life. With Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Bernie Mac, all the greats. And I still watch that movie to this day, but the writers and the directors here, they've done a great job with transforming Biscuit into Harris, the backstabbing, weaseling, woman beater Harris. And this goes to show that you can't really trust anybody when it comes to money and power. They gave Harris too much power. They extended all the family privileges to him, and he abused it big time. And now he's going to have to pay for that. And this episode is dedicated to him for those reasons. The Family Business returns to the network streets at the end of this month on July 28th. And in the meantime, let's go over the highlights from this episode. And what's really troubling to me is that we have a lot of people ODing on this fire stuff, right? In previous episodes, we had Kim. She OD'd on it and she passed away. Mel OD'd on it, but she lived. And on the very last episode, we have Maud, who also OD'd on it, but she's struggling for her life. And now we have Ruby. It's really getting out of hand. But Orlando is taking it upon himself to buy up all the fire as much as possible off the Brooklyn streets. And he's telling his boy to, go and hit up the corner boys, buy it all up, and be careful to lay low so that nobody can track this back to he and his family. And, you can't let everybody know that you're buying up the competition's product, right? So we're going to find out a little bit later why he's doing all of this. And in the meantime, while Brandy is on the phone flirting with Aries, Ruby is knocked out cold under the tree, and he rushed over, to see what was going on. And this is when her husband showed up, and he automatically assumed that Aries has hurt Ruby in some kind of way. And Aries was trying to explain to him that Ruby was like that when he got there. Then some other fool came to the party and hit Aries over the head with that bottle of Pinot Grigio that Brandy gave to Ruby earlier, and it knocked him out cold. Then we hear Harris's voiceover, and we don't actually see him present in the scene, but he threatened to hit London, and this verbal abuse took place right in front of their daughter, and she's expressing to her mom how she felt about it, and she said that she hated him, but London, being the type of mother that she is, she explained to her what's actually going on, and in a way that a kid could understand, right? And she told her not to hate her father. And as Harris was leaving the house, he ran into Sonia, and she's threatening to tell London about his little 22-year-old secret. And he told her that he was about to tell her, but then Raven called and gave him an update on how Melanie was doing in the hospital. So this, of course, delayed the news, so he says. But it really doesn't matter at this point because Sonia said that she's done and that she was going to tell London herself right after she told Junior. And this is where Sonia made a grave mistake. Like, your loyalty is with London, or should it be? Because Harris ain't even blood, right? And not only that, it's a woman thing. Like, if it was her that was going through this, she would want to be told too. So apparently Nevada overheard all the commotion that Harris was keeping up with London, and this sent him on the hunt for Harris and wanted his head on a platter. So he ran into his room and grabbed his piece, and he went looking for him man to man. And Nevada is tired of Harris making threats and beating up on London, so he thinks it's his responsibility to handle it. But he ran into Curtis, and Curtis had to talk him down so that Nevada here could rethink his decision. And this is very important here because can you imagine being Nevada growing up, seeing all of this money, all this power around you, seeing your grandfather and your uncles take anybody out who's standing in their way? So he's probably been trigger happy for a long time. So now he's become of age. Auntie Paris has given him his own gun. So he's ready to light somebody up, and he wants to start with Harris. Then we cut to Billy Bob here, and he's sitting in the yard sipping on his blue MF when he got a little visit from Sebastian and Rio. He thinks that they're there to talk about the money that he owes him, but Sebastian is there to talk about the fire that he sold to Maud. And Maud is, of course, Sebastian's sister, and he told him that she overdosed on it. Then he threatened him and told him that he was going to cut his fingers off if she died. And Billy got jokes. Right? He's talking about she played with the fire, so she got burned, and it's technically Sebastian's fault because he's the one that introduced him to Maud in the first place. But that wasn't such a good idea because Sebastian slapped the crap out of him, slapped him off that little stool he was sitting on. Then Rio came out to ask him who his supplier was, and Billy Bob, he already know that if he gave up any names that he was a dead man walking. But after his little Asian persuasion pulled the sword on him, he gave up Alejandro's name real quick. And these two girls here that do the mani-pedis at the salon are the new doll and baby, right? And I don't even know their names. If anybody knows their names, drop it below in the comments for me. So now we know, we're finding out that Ruby is going to make it. She's going to be okay. And first of all, the only people that were outwardly doing fire was Mel and Maud, right? I don't think that Ruby was involved in that. Like, I never saw her popping any pills, nor did I see Kim. And just to see that they went straight to overdosing on this stuff, it lets us know that it ain't to be played with. And her gullible husband here, he thinks that Aries drugged Ruby and that he was going to take advantage of her. And I don't know how he figured this out with them being in the front yard fully clothed, right? Small minds. And he wants to take Aries out because of this. But his partner here is telling him, you know, he needs to think logically. He told him to never mind the chorus because they're doing business with them and they're making a whole lot of money in the process. So just chill out on killing Aries while they run their bags up. Then LC had a small meeting with Juan, and he told him about the murder of Rafael Cruz. And they were wondering why they took him instead of Marco. And LC wanted to make sure that Junior would be on the plane that night, because if they don't find out who's behind fire soon, it's gonna be too late because the people around them are dropping like flies. And here they think that Juan can shed some light on everything that's going on since they're finding out what he's been doing, right? But they discovered that Juan is not in cahoots with Alejandro at all with fire. LC just wanted him to know that he's all on top of everything that he's doing with fire, but he wanted to know why he didn't share this marketing and business deal with the members at the table. But we all know Juan is feeling away because the table didn't back him up when he was trying to locate Consuela. So he ain't trying to share nothing with them at this point. You know, he's still in his feelings about it. Then we move across the globe to Mexico, where we see Marco. He's drowning his sorrows over the loss of his son in that bottle of tequila. And he's had more than a few shots. When he was told that Orlando was on the phone, he said he didn't want to talk to anybody at all. All he wanted was his tequila. And this is a dangerous move for Marco because he needs to be focused on the business and finding out who did this to his son, right? But he's worthless if he's drunk all day, right? Unproductive. And look at Ramon. Every time we see him, he's on his last breath, right? He can barely get 2 words out. And while he's sitting over there struggling to breathe, Consuela is sharpening forks and coming up with a master plan for old boy here. And it's working too. She got him smiling, giving him compliments, the whole 9. And now it's time for Harris to face the music and face the wrath of London. But first, he got to survive Curtis and Orlando. So once the cat was out of the bag, Sonia gonna chime in with her baby mama drama, something that she should have mentioned way before now, right? And it didn't matter because London heard everything. She heard it all. So she came down and pretty much dismissed him. Bye-bye, Harris. And y'all know Chippy had to co-sign on it, right? It's just something about when Chippy drops the F-bomb that she sets the whole scene ablaze. And I love it. And Harris finally made it to the hospital where he has to face yet another reality. The reality of his daughter laid up in the hospital, and now he ain't got no job. So he's probably wondering how he's going to pay this huge hospital bill. And it's going to be huge because she's been in there for a minute. And all of this drama sent O back to the lab so that he can see what this fire is all about. When Sweetie brought in the lab reports. Oh, that ain't Sweetie. My bad. Don't you like she could be Sweetie's older sister? Do y'all even know who Sweetie is? Anyway, he wanted to know if she had heard anything from Brandy, right? But she told him that Brandy jetted off to Cali and changed her phone number. But we have to remember that Brandy was forced to get Ghost because Chippy and Sasha ran her off and told her to never come back. Then Sonia finally got around to talking to London, trying to make small talk, and London don't want to hear any of it. All she wants to know is why she has to question her loyalty. She's about to become a Duncan, right? So Sonia needs to get her priorities in order. And Sonia did apologize, but it was hard for London to believe her because Sonia should have already told her, right? And we can tell that she's very disappointed that she had to find out what was going on with her husband in front of her entire family. And she had to let her know that it was embarrassing for her. And Sonia vowed to never, ever backstab her again. So we'll see. And I already don't think that Sonia really meant to pull the wall of distrust between her and London. But I think she was put in a rough spot really early on with the Duncans. But we can't forget that Sonia is pretty good at keeping secrets, right? She was keeping one so good that it almost got Junior killed because she didn't tell him about Brother X. So she keeps making these random mistakes of withholding very important information where she should be forthright from the beginning. And this speaks a lot to her character, right? and how she should be developing in season 4. So hopefully she will have the Duncans back a little bit more, and hopefully she'll realize the impact that her decision of not telling things is affecting the entire family. So Junior has made it to his meeting with Alejandro to have a discussion, and Alejandro, he begins the conversation reminding Junior that he is just head of security for the Duncan family and not even qualified to hold a meeting with him. But that doesn't bother Junior at all. He told him straight up, listen, LC and Orlando ain't here. I'm holding the meeting, and we want to know who your supplier is. But of course, Alejandro told him that he wouldn't even be willing to give that information to LC. So he's definitely not willing to give it up to him. And he thinks that they want the information to become the competition. But Junior said that he wants to make a purchase. Oh yeah, he's come to talk some real business. Then LC made it home, and they're sitting down talking about how their weeks went, and they're putting their heads together to find out who's behind fire. Then he told Chippy that he was going to have Harris to run back all their competitor numbers, right? But then Chippy told him he may not want to do that because he and London are about to get a divorce. And in the meantime, Consuelo was there. She's still pouring on the charm. She got him so sprung that he already got a special dinner planned for her and her nephew. So when she saw that she had him in the palm of her hands, she went in for the kill, and she asked him to let her take a hot shower, and then to make him feel confident about her taking the shower, she said, oh, nothing's gonna happen. You can watch me take the shower. Oh man, what'd she tell him that for? He told her to go ahead and eat her food, and he was gonna think about it, and that's all she needed. All she had to do was make the suggestion, and now he's thinking about it. He gonna be thinking about this a whole day. That was pure genius. So it looks like we got Marco back, y'all, and he's in his good mind now. So he told his security that the tequila no longer numbs the pain of his loss. So he was done drinking, but he turned to the gun instead. And do we need to worry about Marco? I mean, he's grieving the loss of his brother and his son, and he's thinking about taking his own life, I think. But then he reminds him that his sister Consuela has a son, and he's thinking about Nevada now. And he told him that Nevada is his successor, so he has him to consider. As Melanie is being released from the hospital, LC got a little surprise for Harris, and he's pissed off. He breathing fire sitting in the back of that car. He told Harris how disappointed he was in him, right? And then he gave him his parting gift, $5 million. Now listen, they're still being good to this man. And Harris even had offshore bank accounts set up for him with the Duncans' money. So he's been stealing too. So then LC pulled out the gun that Harris used to kill Sal Dash with his fingerprints all over it. And I think that Sal was actually his dad, but he was trying to take LC out, right? And if memory serves me correctly, this is where he proved to LC that he was very loyal to him. But that really doesn't matter now, because since then, Harris has been doing some slimy business, period. He blackmailed Harris and reminded him that he was a murderer. And in order for him to stop him from ending his life, he told Harris to email Junior all the passwords and to give up any jump files of anything that he's ever touched in Duncan Motors. He told him that he can't trust who he was anymore, but if he didn't love his grandchildren, then he'd be floating in a river somewhere. And we all know that this is the only thing that saved Harris. And Biscuit was in disbelief. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that LC was just going to let him walk away with his life and $5 million to start a new life. But we all know that LC's not going to let him off the hook like that. He said there was one other thing that he needed him to do. And when he got out of the car, Rob was going to let him know what it was. So after this, Rob handed him a briefcase and told him that LC was going to come to him for a favor. And when he does, that he suggested that he open the combination and use what's inside the briefcase. I wonder what's in there. And when is LC going to need a favor from him? And this is very interesting. Even though Harris is no longer a part of the family, he still recognizes the value that Harris brought to the team, right, and to the business. So he's still going to use him up in some way. And this concludes episode 10, season 3 of The Family Business. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me, you guys. I appreciate it. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You know, I'd appreciate it. And if you're a fan of The Family Business, go ahead and sub to the channel, because I do video breakdowns like this all the time. Thank you so much once again, you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.